Okay. Hi, everyone. We're back. Sorry if you were in the chat or not in the chat for our first try at this video. We had a little snafu, so we had to start over. And if you're watching this on the replay, thank you for watching. And you should be able to comment on this version of the video. That was the problem with the last one. So,
yes,
I am Lola.
And I'm Nay.
And this is Naylo's Thrift Talk, which is a weekly show on YouTube all about thrifting and reselling and finding the value in discarded objects and recognizing how they can be special and hold stories and can connect us with other people who feel the same way.
Yeah.
So this week we are talking all about ties and scarves, which are one of or two of our favorite things to thrift just because they're lightweight, they're plentiful, and they have so many different patterns and colors, and just, they're so interesting and fun to research. And they are also, good to sell, but great to wear and to keep for ourselves. So we do both. And did you want to add anything else, Nay?
Oh, that was great.
I feel like try two goes a little smoother because I already knew what I wanted to say.
I know. I appreciate everyone coming back and finding.
Yes, it's so nice to see everyone in the chat. I was wondering, I was like, did everyone just abandon us?
Like, so weird. So it was a setting. Apparently, when I scheduled the show, I hit some kind of setting, a kid setting or something, and that's what Tim said. So I messed up. My fault. Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense that there's that setting available, but now we know. For the
I accidentally must have checked that box when I scheduled it. Mm-hmm.
And do you want to redo what we're wearing? I actually didn't hear at all what you said because I was trying to figure out the
that's fine.
settings.
So okay, so what are we wearing? That's thrifted today. Lola, do you want to go? And
so I'm wearing one of my favorite cozy t-shirts.
I'm trying to pull it. Can you fix the screen? Mm-hmm. There we go. Got it.
It was like cut cropped, just kind of big and oversized. It's a Sixer shirt, so of course I got it in Philly. And I am also wearing a vintage scarf, which is big enough to kind of tie around my head, which is like probably my favorite way to wear these. My discounter says deja vu. Yeah, for sure. It's like a little bit like a broken record here. But
you got to start from the top again, though, because we're going to delete the other ones. So.
And my hair is like a little too short so it's like I had to like awkwardly pull it back to get the scarf to sit right on my head. But this is like my favorite way to wear scarves besides around my neck. And because I can't take it off or my hair would look like a wreck, I do have a few other of my favorite vintage scarves in my collection. So I love picking up tourist scarves that show different cities. And this one is New York. And it's really fun because you can tell what decade, even down to like kind of what year it was. This is definitely mid-century. Like Lincoln Center, I think, opened in the early 60s, right before the World's Fair. You can also tell by the airports on here. Usually that will change. It'll say Idlewild or JFK depending on the year. So anyway, it's a fun way to like play detective and figure out how old things are when there's lots of landmarks. Maybe easier in New York than in Paris. This one's from Paris. But I bought this one at a thrift store in New York City, and I bought the New York City one at an antique store in Louisville, Kentucky. So I don't think I've ever actually bought a city tourist scarf in the city where like that was depicted on it. And then one more quick scarf that I didn't show in the first one. So if you're sticking around for both, you can get some extra content. One of my all-time favorites just because it's huge. And
ooh, I love that. Oh my gosh.
Isn't it awesome? It's so vibrant.
Oh, that is beautiful.
And unlike a lot of my scarves, this one actually does have a brand name on it. So I was able to do a little bit more research. And this brand is Glentex. So it is all silk. It's definitely hand rolled. I think this might be from the 60s because that's when Glentex was sort of at its heyday. And it had some really interesting partnerships with, I'm going to say her name wrong, Elsa Schiaparelli. So you can go online and see some of the designs she did for them. very like distinctive of her work with like the appliques and stuff. But so really pretty scarves. And it's always fun to research these because then you just go down a rabbit hole looking at their other designs and trying to once I have actually found like the exact same one that I had, but usually you just find similar ones in the same decade or era, and then other ones that are totally different. So it's, always new things to discover.
Very cool.
How about you, Nay?
My Manny is actually wearing she's wearing a Free People shirt that I thrifted at Shop Goodwill. So I will be selling that. That came in a lot. So I'm
very cute.
A few dollars for it. So yeah, it's really pretty. And her scarf, I just wanted to give an example of the fact that you can kind of have that like kind of boho look, and when it's cold in the winter, you can still use like the kind of winter chunky scarves as a as either a winter outside scarf or kind of a cute indoor scarf. This is Nicole Miller. So, and that brand is not, it's kind of a bread and butter average brand. But I got this actually for free with the scarf that I'm wearing, which is a Fendi scarf, which is in a much different league. So this is cashmere. It's really pretty. You can see it's really a gorgeous design. It is vintage. So the seller did not know what she had when she listed it. In fact, it was on Poshmark, and she had like a question mark authentic, like she didn't know. And it was authentic because I looked up the style and everything, and I did a little research, and it's definitely authentic. So I knew to purchase it, and it was like maybe $20, but she took a while to ship it. And I asked her, I was like, are you going to, is it going to ship soon? It was one of those deals where it was like a week, and she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was fine with it. So she sent me the extra scarf in the package as an apology. So
I got, so nice.
I know. So I got not only this beautiful Fendi scarf, which is authentic, but also that. So
are you keeping the Fendi scarf, or are you selling
it? Yes, I'm keeping it. Yeah, I'm going to.
I would have a hard time not keeping it.
I'm keeping it. Yeah, I'm not going to sell it. And I'll tell you why later in the show. Some guilt about a scarf that I did sell. So this is a Gucci men's tie. Tying it ties, no pun intended. But this is a Gucci men's tie. And it was stained, and it had holes and damage. And I could not sell it. I couldn't salvage it to sell it as a men's tie. So I repurposed it. I took the lining out. And I repurposed it as a headscarf. So, and I can tie it a little cuter. I could tie a bow up top, whatever, but it is actual Gucci silk. So, and then I have on these earrings are actually, if you can see them, they are, so I live in an area that's very culturally diverse, which is wonderful. And we have a lot of people that immigrated from India that live in my area. And so we have so many, it's so nice. We have so many Indian restaurants and Indian stores and Indian groceries and Indian everything. So, which is really cool because I love Indian food and all. So anyway, a lot of the local marketplace ads and flea markets around here and all have people that have people that sell Indian jewelry. So, and they bring a lot of the people, have come, they get them from India, and they sell the Indian jewelry. So these were from a flea market that I went to in my town, and she was selling all beautiful Indian jewelry. And I picked these up for like $3, I think. Wow. So they're really pretty. So
that's so cool. That was one thing I loved in, I think my last Goodwill blue box of the jewelry. It's, they sell it as like for crafts and reuse and stuff, but I had a bunch of items that were basically brand new, still wrapped, probably from similar shops like that, like Indian import shops, and just so pretty.
Yeah, it's really pretty. And we have so much of that here because we do have a high South Asian population in my town, which is really nice. I love it. So yes.
You ready to do
yes, so our home decor, and Lola, can you go first? Because I did not, I have to go again as every week I have to. So this is our thrifted home decor items of the week. So
I just realized
now you guys are not on deja vu.
I finally got a ring light, but I'm turning it off for a second because my item is a mirror, and I just realized I'm going to blind everyone.
Let me.
So
That's fine.
this is a mirror that I got when I was in college at living in my very first like furnished apartment. And it's kind of funny because I got it at like an antique shop in Dallas and carried it with me when I moved back to Massachusetts. And by the time I left, I was like, I don't know if this is like totally my style anymore. Maybe I should put it on Craigslist. And I remember looking it up and thinking I could probably get like $50 to $75 for it on Craigslist. And I never got around to it. And then I sort of saw it in my closet and thought, oh, that's perfect for making a little like a vanity area in my bedroom. So I'm glad I did not get rid of it because it's the perfect thing for what I wanted. And now it sits on, there's this like really weird little like built-in desk in my bedroom, in our bedroom, because we live in a like former student housing or something. Like there's definitely at some point it was used for students. So there's this literally just like you might have built-in bookshelves. It's a built-in desk and it's not very deep. It's like a weird location. So finally decided it was gonna be a vanity. And now the this mirror sits on the desk and I can just kind of roll out of bed and get into my desk and do my makeup in the morning. So it's served me well. And it's now my lesson that even if things I thrift suddenly like lose their luster, if I hold on to it long enough, I will love it again. And now I can't get rid of anything. So
That's really sad. So I have this. So I just grabbed this out because I forgot again. But okay, so I can. So this is an elephant that is.
Oh, that's so cute.
My aunt actually, she's a quilter and she makes these things. She made this for my kids when she was when they were babies. But she does use all repurposed fabric. So she collects, like. And I've given her fabric from the thrift stores that I found, like, so she repurposes all of her fabric. Even like she'll cut like old, sheets and throws and things like that to get her fabric. So this is all from repurposed fabric. So I will say that, but it's a cute little elephant that she made my kids when they were younger. It's actually in my son Colin's room now. So yeah, so you can find a lot of these kind of things at the thrift store, but this is also kind of in the circle of thrifting because it's all from so super cute.
Yeah, and that sort of ties into, haha, no pun intended, ties into one of our selling tips later in this episode too, for what to do when you have excess items that aren't moving. So.
Yeah. So, and I have a couple of other little housekeeping items to share. So let's see. Yeah. So next Friday on the 2nd of October, that is the right date, right?
Oh, so
what was
it might be the first. Is that?
I don't think so because there's no 31st and looking at the just check the calendar. I think that's right.
Right now.
Okay. So anyway, next Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern.
It is the 2nd, yeah.
It is the 2nd, okay, yeah. So next Friday the 2nd, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, we will have a very special guest who you all may have heard of.
Who may be in the chat. He was earlier.
He was earlier, yeah. His name is Jason T. Smith, and he will be talking about vinyl. So he's going to be doing a webinar coming up all about vinyl records and flipping vinyl records. So he's going to be talking a little bit more about collecting vinyl and what you can expect. He's being smart. So what you can expect for, like in his webinar and everything. And it's going to be a great webinar and he'll be a great guest. And we're very excited to have Jason back on. So next Friday.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm so excited to learn something myself because this is one of those things I love to buy, but don't know that much about selling. So
he knows a lot about records. So we will be talking about that. And then I also want to do I just want to share this again. So again, I've been kind of, telling everybody that every week I've been talking about this. So I am doing packages for online sellers, and they are discounted rates. I am a professional graphic designer, so I will give you something that you love. I make sure that you're happy with your design, but I do eBay stores, logo, banner designs, Etsy, Poshmark, whatever business you have your own website, business cards. I can do package inserts, thank you, sticker design. Somebody requested a bookmark from me, I can do that. Facebook business banner design. If somebody did a seasonal banner instead of a Facebook banner, so I can kind of customize your packages or do a la carte items. So if you're interested, let me know. You can hit me up. I'm all over the place, but my NS Designs or N Shearstone Designs is my Facebook business page. So feel free to message me there. So that is that. And then we are going to be getting into our main segment now. So that is, so, okay. So I guess we're going to talk a little bit first about the history of scarves and ties. So just really briefly, I have to grab my thing. You can just talk for a second.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we will also put these links in the description, which I meant to do beforehand, but one day I'll get my act together.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, I think it's easy to guess that the scarf and the necktie are both items that have longer history than, what we see in thrift stores, and there are far older ones that probably never come across. But I was surprised that the scarf, like the silk scarf as we know it today, does have its,
I didn't know if everybody could see all that. I thought I was sharing my
its origins back in ancient Egypt, which makes sense since a lot of our textiles originated in Egypt in general. And Queen Nefertiti was said to have worn a tightly woven scarf topped with a conical headdress in 1350 BC. But scarves became more of a popular fashion accessory in the 19th century. And Hermes had a big hand in that. So Hermes is a well-known brand, probably one that you've heard of, even if you're not super into fashions. It's one of those like iconic names, and especially when it comes to scarves. And they did design the first ready-to-wear silk scarf in 1837. So, of course, that was in France. But around the same time, they were popular throughout Europe and in the United States, especially with graphic prints, which I would love to read a little bit more about in general, the history of developing those like graphic prints on fabric, and then also how scarves became popular as accessories, because I would be surprised if they don't have some correlation that increased, industrial production of fabric led to the ability to make scarves, which are basically just, larger pieces of fabric. And the necktie originated in the 17th century during the 30-year War in France. And it was part of the military uniform, which originally had sort of utilitarian purpose, but eventually became more for aesthetics. And the term for cravat, for necktie in French, cravat, is originates from a reference to the Croatian mercenaries who were the ones who had the tie as part of their uniform. So that is interesting.
That's like a kind of what it looked like. Yeah. So yeah. So. And here is, we will pop this link into the description too. So this is kind of like a little evolution of the necktie, so if you want to nerd out and get into the history, you can read all about it here. So yes. So yeah, so it became kind of, fashionable, and it was named la cravate, which is the French word for tie. And that is still the tie, the name in this day. And that was back from way back in the day. So from Louis the Eighth. Okay.
13th, I think. Did I?
Yeah, it was the 13th. It's a 10 with 3.
It's okay.
Right, Roman numeral skills. There you go. Okay, so
yeah, so that's, I mean, I was curious when we first started doing this, working on this episode, like how far back these items date. So, you know, they're definitely not like 20th century inventions, but they also aren't, you know, ancient designs either. They're fairly modern.
Yeah. And we'll talk too about the recent history of ties when we get to it, how you can, how they've changed from like the mid-century to now, how different styles, and you can kind of identify them by the styles, but you can identify the time period by the styles. So for scarves, we have some terminology that you should all kind of be familiar with. And so one of them is hand rolled. So if you look at, I
have some examples.
Okay. So
this is,
sorry, let me put you on the big screen and I'll
try to find one where you can see the stitching really obviously. Okay. So this one's good. So on a hand rolled scarf, the edge of the scarf fabric will have been turned over and will have been sort of whip stitched in place. So, can you see? So you can see how the thread kind of goes towards the main body of the scarf, as opposed to if it was done by machine, it would look more like a standard seam. This one might actually, so this one is a less well done hand rolled scarf. You can definitely see the difference in quality between them, because there will be far more stitches. The more stitches, the more time consuming, the higher quality in general the scarf is. So this one has fewer stitches holding down, but because they're actually a little bit larger, you can see where the fabric puckers in different places where it's been stitched. So this is another example of a hand rolled scarf, but one that isn't quite as well done.
Yep.
And when you hold up the whole scarf, you can actually see it quite clearly, like, and how well it translates to video, but it looks kind of uneven at the edges. So this is technically hand rolled, but not super high quality. The nicer scarves like this one are like so well evenly done that they create a very nice, neatly finished edge. And I really thought I had a machine finished one here, but I don't think I do.
I think I do, actually. Yeah, here's one this is machine finished on the side, on the edge. It's hard to tell though. It's hard to see, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, unfortunately. But if you see one, it's fairly easy to tell because it looks like machine stitches. It's just a very short, a very like straight line of like perfectly made stitches that have no variation. So they're clearly not done by hand.
Yeah, that's what this is though. But because the stitches are also the same color, so it's hard to see. But
yeah, there's not a lot of contrast.
Yeah.
So
I'm go on.
The fiber content of the scarves is super important, which is funny because Heather just asked that in the chat. The majority of the scarves we're talking about today are silk scarves. And so if you're talking about a scarf, like a neck scarf, you want to look for 100% silk. And usually it will say on a label that's somewhere in the corner. It's not uncommon for these scarves to lose the label. Actually, a lot of mine are kind of falling off. So like this one. And if they're not 100% silk, that's not a deal breaker in general. Like this beautiful New York scarf that I have is actually a 77% rayon, 23% silk blend. And as you can see, the labels nearly fallen off.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, so those are, if you're listing, those are definitely keywords to include. You also can look for other natural fibers, so linen, occasionally cashmere blends, which may be labeled as pashmina, which is also a term that's used to refer to a type of scarf, which can get confusing. So if you remember those from, like, I think they were super popular when Sex and the City was on TV, and there's like an episode about pashmina. So technically it does refer to a cashmere blend, but they can sometimes be labeled and actually be like an acrylic or mostly acrylic blend. So it is good.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, awesome, Heather. Heather says that the boots that she had that Nadine helped her with sold for $161.
Oh, nice. I'm so excited. Wow, that's great. Great. You should share that in the thrifting board for sure. Share your link and show everyone. They were awesome boots. Yeah, so this is an example of a wool scarf that is made in Italy, which we'll talk about the origin of scarves too. This is gorgeous. Like, it's actually like, it's like woven. And it is, I can find the tag here. It's actually, it is, yeah, it's Cochi, it's 100% merino wool and hand wash. It does say hand wash, which is, you know, kind of an added bonus, but it's really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an example of a wool scarf. A lot of scarves are polyester and they look kind of silky. This is a polyester scarf. They are so plentiful in the thrift stores, so plentiful. But I buy a lot of them for myself. I don't necessarily flip them, but I buy them for myself because, you know, there's some really beautiful ones. So, and in the 70s, a lot of them were polyester. So,
yeah. So if I'm looking through like a big, you know, pile of scarves in a store and they're not being sold as a lot or by weight, then I usually will skip the ones that are polyester. But sometimes the polyester scarves can also have just like really cool patterns and stuff, and it can be easy to find one that's tempting enough to get anyway. So definitely one of the kind of more flexible thrifting rules that I have for myself.
Yeah. And I wanted to share a few links here. So as far as the types of scarves, this is a great article. We can also pop that into the description. But you know, this tells some of the type based on material: cotton, chiffon, silk, cashmere, pashmina. A lot of them are from India. Velvet scarves. There's some beautiful velvet, like winter heavy velvet with designs. Wool scarves, net scarves, viscose, acrylic, alpaca, linen, and satin. And then based on function, head scarves, neck scarves, beach scarves, winter scarves. You've heard the term hijab. Muslim women, I have some Muslim friends who wear, you know, beautiful scarves on their head as part of their, you know, everyday dress. And that's another thing that, you know, some of the scarves can be can also be used for hijab. So that's another keyword that, you know, and some of them you can put in the larger scarves, and you know, there's some really beautiful ones for that as well. And then this shows some of the scarf styles. There's tiny ones that are square scarves, and they're kind of like almost like an ascot kind of thing. Like they're just around your neck tightly. A shawl scarf, it would be like something more like something actually kind of, this one is kind of a shawl scarf because it's so wide that you can also wear it like this, you know, or around your neck. The rectangular is, I think, the most popular one. The pashmina there is, and then the infinity scarf loops around. It's actually sewn around. This is a Missoni scarf that I have that's more like a shawl, but it is kind of an infinity too. If I can, it's because it's an infinite loop. It doesn't, it's, you know, it doesn't have an end and a beginning. So those are some of the styles of scarves. And also, I know one of the types of scarves that you want to, if you find an Hermé at the thrift store, a lot of times it's going to be a fake, but there are those times when you have a real scarf. So we can also put this in, but this is some ways to identify a real Hermes scarf. So there's there's certain, the fabric tag should be sewn into the scarf's bottom corner, and it should be it should have certain things on it, like made in France, 100% silk, or soie, which is the French word for silk, hand rolled edges. And then there's only the 2 size variations, which are 70 by 70 centimeters, and then the 90 by 90. And then I guess they do have a larger shawl size, but the delicate rolled edges. So there's we can pop this in there too, but there's a lot of ways to identify, and some of them you can tell right off the bat, and then others are, better fakes. And so you have to kind of, do your digging a little bit more. So
yeah, that's definitely one of those items where I would, if I was looking at it in a store, or even if I found a listing online, I would like use my best judgment based on, what's available in the images, or just by feel and by touch. Like I was saying, looking at the hand roll edges and seeing how well they're done. And obviously somewhere like Hermes would have really impeccably done details like that. And if anything feels off, I'd probably leave it behind. And then if it didn't feel off, I would still invest in one of the authentication services just for peace of mind before I would test it. Or even if I wanted to keep it, just so I knew for myself. But I've never been in that situation yet. So one day maybe.
Yeah. So, and then as far as what else? I'm sorry, I keep losing my script, my windows here.
Yeah. So another thing to look at for if you're trying to evaluate which scarves you're going through. One thing to look at is the location it's made. So, like most items, and this is, I feel like we say this a lot for different items, but anything that's, made in Europe will usually be a little bit older, a little bit more like higher quality. So, like Italy, France, the US. But then I mean that's not a hard and fast rule. Like again, going back to this example, does say made in Japan, which of course, a lot of silk comes from Japan and China. So it's not necessarily a bad if you're finding like a made in China scarf, but it could also indicate a newer, more mass produced item. So
yeah. I mean, there's actual scarves that were like handcrafted in China, like back in mid-century too, and they are like actual. They're that's a whole different thing than like the mass produced. But I've seen a lot of scarves that say made in Japan from mid-century too.
Yeah, so that's like this one, which was also a time I think there was a lot of more mass production happening, like a lot of like ceramics and things like that you see that were made for the tourist market will also have been made in Japan around that time. So that's sort of.
This is a Missoni scarf that is a more modern scarf, obviously, and the hallmark of that is the chevron pattern. But I'm not going to sell this one. I decided to keep it. But it is. Here's the tag, and this is actually rayon, so it's not silk. It's not. So it's actually, and this is a very high-end label, and it's made in Italy. It says made in Italy, but this is an example of one that would sell for quite a bit, and it's not silk. So.
Yeah, so Heather is asking what are some of the other brands of scarves that sell well. So Missoni is a great example. And Missoni does have some diffusion brands. I don't know if they have scarves marketed under them, but I have found some of the like Missoni sport items in thrift stores more often than actual Missoni. And then there's Missoni for Turkit, which still has a pretty good following.
Yeah, I just sold, and I will actually show some of the solds from myself and others, some of the brands of scarves when we finish the scarf segment. So there's some Ralph Lauren BOLOs. There's Hermes is a big one, of course. Lily Pulitzer. Here's the Lily. This is Lily Pulitzer for Target, but and then Lily did the breast cancer for Ford.
That was one I was thinking of, because I remember one time I think we were in a store and found one of the breast cancer Lily ones, and you were like, oh, I have that scarf.
Yeah. So, but Lily Pulitzer is another one. This is a Lily for Target, so it won't sell for as much, but this would I'd still be able to get probably 25. This one, and then Burberry, obviously. Vera Newman is one that I think they're very plentiful, but they don't really necessarily go for as much, but you can lot them together. But some of them are very beautiful. This is actually a rare Vera Newman. It's not a scarf. It's a shirt. It's a blouse, but it has. I just wanted to show this for the signature. So this is what the Vera. I have Vera Newman scarves somewhere in my. I just couldn't pull one. So that's what the Vera signature looks like.
This one's also Vera.
Okay.
One I was wearing. So this is the pattern.
Okay. Not to be confused with Vera Bradley.
Right.
Totally different. Yes.
But I think I remember reading up on her story once, and she reminded me a lot of like Lily Pulitzer. She was just like a woman who was very much her own person and had her really strong point of view. And she would always sign with the ladybugs. So here's signature with a little ladybug next to it.
Yep.
One does say Scarves by Vera, all silk hand rolled, made in the USA.
Very cool. Yeah.
So not super high end, but she does have a following. So
yeah, you can see the ladybug there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super cute. So yeah, and you can, so with selling them, so you can buy them in lots when you find them. There's a lot of great lots. Like now, if you're shopping from home and not going to the thrift stores necessarily, Shop Goodwill has a lot of great lots. You can get, even like ThredUp had a scarf box. I don't know if they still offer it, but a lot of there's a lot of things like that you can get, and you find a lot of lots on eBay, on Mercari. So and you can find them in the bins or the wall of bags, or lots on even in the thrift store. Sometimes they bag them together, and a bunch of them, or they have them really inexpensively. You can get them for like $1 on sale days. You can get them really, really inexpensive. So you can, and then by the pound, if you're shopping at the bins, it's an easy risk, because
it's one of the few things where I'll grab it out of the bin without really looking through them. And then I'll just decide later which ones are worth selling, which ones are worth keeping, which ones I might repurpose, for crafts or something.
But yeah, you're saying like for Poshmark, for gift wrapping, kind of like.
Yeah. So just start talking about like online sourcing. This is a freebie if anyone wants to go bid on it. This is a current item that's on Shop Goodwill, and it's a lot of two. I just quickly did some comps. A similar one had sold on Poshmark for 15, and this is a lot of 2 for 10. So not a huge profit, but like just an example of it being fairly easy to source these items, especially because it seems like on Shop Goodwill, even then when they do a big lot, if you look at the photos, they do have the tags, so you can figure out what the brands are, or at least the quality, and do your comps before you even bid on it. So
yes. Go ahead.
That's one of the fun things about sourcing online, is it's not quite the same like in-person experience, but you can take your time and kind of pick and choose carefully what you're bidding on. So.
Yeah. So I didn't mean to show that. I'm trying to get my. Hold on. I want to show some of the solds that I have. So because we're gonna kind of wrap up the scarves and go to ties, and I want to show my solds. So if I can get my. I'm sorry, I'm working with like a bunch of different tabs today, so it's kind of like, okay, so here's some solds for you guys. So this one is Hermé. This one is gorgeous. I love the design on that. Now this one went for, and you're not going to all sell the same thing. You're not going to all sell for this much. This one was $1,765. So don't expect to find this, all day, because I've never found one for that much. Lola, have you?
I have not. And I have looked through a lot of scarves, but I definitely know people who have. And right in the chat, this is a great, awesome example. London Cole.
Oh yeah, that's great.
An Adrienne Lundau for $90 new with tags. That is from the bin. That's nice. The bin's dream right there.
Yes, it is, and they're out there. So don't.
And I'm guessing with the 169 was probably 169 a pound. So that must have cost you like 3 cents, 5 cents.
Yeah, amazing sale there.
Yeah.
So this is a Picasso scarf that it was. This one went for $1,250.
Wow. That is beautiful.
Yeah, it is gorgeous, but so don't expect to find these big ticket ones. This is one that this is an Hermé that went for, I love the print on that went for $535. So amazing, amazing here. But it's not impossible to find them. You don't know. So this is Louis Vuitton. So anything Louis Vuitton, if it's authentic, is going to sell for a lot. So this went for $500, but that's not a surprise. And this is gorgeous. I love Alexander McQueen. I'd love to do an episode on him. So this is so cool. It's like, it's got that kind of, it's a silk chiffon scarf, but it's got that kind of like, it's got the skulls in it, but they're kind of like, almost like, I don't know what the word, hidden, but they're, so it's really pretty though, made in Italy. So this one sold for $425. And this is an example, Etro. I've sold an Etro dress before. We've talked about that brand before. If you ever find one in Etro, pick it up. This one is $364.99 it went for. So, and there is a lot of Etro out there. I found an Etro dress that I sold for a few $100s. So, and then this is Christian Dior. Dior is always another one. You can see this is called jacquard or monogrammed. That's the logo there. So this one went for $298. I don't know if I would put Rasta there, I guess, because of the colors on the bottom.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, so
I wonder if that's how it was originally marketed.
Maybe so. Yeah, that's a possibility. Chanel is a big one. That's obviously, if you find anything Chanel, it's going to go for a lot. And, you will have to get it authenticated, but authentic Chanel is going to sell for a lot. There's the Chanel tag on that. That one for $247. This is, so here's a Ralph Lauren this was a purple label. We talked about, if you go back to our Ralph Lauren episode, purple label is the high-end label. This sold for $150. This was new with tags, but again, purple label is just a plain scarf. So there are some Ralph Lauren holy grails out there. So don't just overlook them.
And I would say pretty much anything that's in really good condition, that's 100% cashmere, is also, regardless of the label, because it's an expensive fiber no matter where you're buying it from. So
so Emilio Pucci, we had a whole episode about Pucci. So yes, I know. And his lovely daughter Laudomia gave us a shout out, which we were like, starstruck by, but
definitely the coolest thing that's happened.
I know. I will never live that down. I will never forget that. So, but this one sold for $150. Pucci's always a winner. And then this is, I just wanted to give this as an example because this was Italia Ferretti. It's an Italian brand, obviously. It went for $89.95, but this one they did put hijab in the keywords because this was a large enough scarf that could be used as a headscarf or a hijab for a Muslim woman, and it's gorgeous. Like I said, some of my Muslim friends, they rock these gorgeous hijabs that I am in love with. So this is Fendi. This is called the Zucca logo. That anytime you see the F's on Fendi like this, it's called Zucca print. I sold a handbag. I have a tie in my Poshmark closet, actually, that is this print. And this one went for $79. So, and kind of like my Fendi scarf that I have on today. And then J Press. This is, so I wanted to give a couple examples of men's scarves as well, because men's scarves sell. I've sold a couple of Polo Ralph Lauren men's scarves for, not too much, like $25 range, but still a good bread and butter item if you're picking it up at the bins. And this is an example J Press that sold for $99.97. So Dolce Gabbana. This is another men's scarf. You can see that there. That sold for $115. And then here is my heartbreaker. I am so sad that I sold this. I regret it every day. And I sold it for $85. I think it could have gotten more, but it wasn't selling. It was a vintage Gucci, authentic, completely authentic. And yeah, it was gorgeous. And I sold it for $85 on Poshmark. And I just regret it because I want my Gucci scarf back. So, but someday, it was $85, but someday I will buy another Gucci scarf.
It will come back to you. One day you will find it on eBay for a steal and you'll know it was time that it came back to you.
Yeah, you never know. So, and Missoni, I sold this Missoni scarf. This was not Missoni Target. This was regular Missoni for $70. And this was just sitting in Goodwill with the cheap polyester scarves and all. And I think I paid $1.99 for it, and I sold it for $70 on Poshmark. You can see the hand rolled edges there on that. Gorgeous design. The characteristic, the chevron is that zigzag print that's Missoni is known for. So, and then this is this is a very different Missoni for Target. I just sold this one this past week, and it was new with tags from the 20th anniversary collection. It only sold for $25.49, but still, you know, it's Missoni for Target. So, and I actually have one that I'm keeping for myself because I did pick up a couple.
And I think if you do find any pieces from the original Missoni collection that are still in good condition, those can be highly sought after. I know I think I said this on our previous episode, but I sold one of the Missoni, what's it called? Shower curtains years after it was still new in package because I bought it and never opened, but I sold it like 5 or 6 years later for like $50 or $60. So.
You mean the original Missoni for Target?
For the Missoni for Target. Yeah, the original Missoni for Target collection from like 2010, 2011. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. So this is Rebecca Minkoff. She's another designer. This was just a cotton bandana or square scarf. And this sold for $25. And I remember specifically, I paid $1 for it. So
nice.
You know, so that was a good. And then this was a great sale. This was a shawl or a wrap. It was wool and it was Russian and it had the tags on it. You can see the tags here, all in Russian.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So it was 100% wool. It was made in Russia. I found this at the thrift store. I think I paid, you know, just $2.99 or something for it. And I sold it for $79 on Poshmark. So it was beautiful. But, you know, and they bundled it with another item too. So, you know, I made even more of a profit that way. So yeah, so that was a great sale of mine. So those are just some of the scarf brands and sales that I wanted to show, some of my personal sales as well. So
great sales and great examples. Yeah. So
and
it goes, obviously, any of those really big name designer brands, if you find one of their scarves, will do well, but it's not exhaustive. And even the smaller ones, like the cotton scarf that you shared with, you know, a name brand and a really nice design can do well. And then also
absolutely
less, you know, if it's a good quality fiber or a really interesting novelty design, definitely give those a shot too. I don't think it has to be an out of the park home run to get, you know, to sell a scarf for $20-$30 range, in my experience.
Yep, absolutely.
If it's a really special.
I completely agree. Yes. And we're going to move on to ties. I'm trying to bring up my Fendi tie from my Poshmark store. I forgot to pull that up. But anyway, so with ties, I think, so one thing with ties is that you have to so you should know the styles roughly and the dimensions. So there are a few different, I'm trying to bring this up. This is hard with a few different windows, the way I'm doing it today. This is not as easy, but I will get there. So let me just share again. Hold on. Let's see. I will share this screen. So with ties, there's a few different widths. So, and you should know them because when you're listing them, you want to put that in your keywords. So there is standard, there's classic or standard or classic, there's skinny. There are, there's a few different, I'm going to find this. Okay. This is what I want. Okay. So this is an example of the widths of ties here. You can see that. So they're super skinny, which is 2 inches wide. There is skinny, which is 2 inches, 2.5 inches wide. Modern is 3 inches wide. And then traditional, which is the classic one, which is most of the ones that you'll find are 3.25. Now, there are also extra wide ties that were very popular in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And you'll find them a lot in the thrift stores that, you know, if you find any of the 80s ties, a lot of them are polyester, but those are greater than 3.25 inches wide. So look for those. And then there's boys lengths, which are, shorter and less, so the length also has to do with extra long is 63 inches, regular is 58 inches, and then boys are like 48 inches. So you have to definitely measure the width and the length. And the way you measure the width is on this portion of the tie where you can see me in the little window. You measure it at the bottom here, where at the widest part. So, and then the length, obviously that's a self-explanatory from tip to tip. So that's how you measure your ties. And you definitely want to put those two measurements in there. And in the listing, say if it's skinny, if it's classic, whatever. And here is another
if you're listing on eBay, it should be pretty easy to do that in the item specifics.
Yep, the item specifics. Yep. They
already like programmed in. So
absolutely, they give it to you. So here's another little handy size chart to see. And that shows where the arrows are, where you should measure it. So you have to know that too. And let's see we're extra wide, Johnny Carson. Yeah, I remember that from back in the day. Yes.
I was browsing through Depop, and it did seem that the most popular ties on there were like either the skinny or the extra wide. So sort of like the outliers as opposed to the more classic ones. I thought that was.
And I actually have an example of a skinny tie that I've sold. So I'll show that in a minute. But this, as far as brands go, so these are some of the brands in 2020. This is from demarge.com, and it's a kind of a men's kind of style site. And anyway, Todd Snyder is one of them, so look for that. And this is interesting because it's like a silk knot tie. It doesn't look like a traditional tie. Drake's is a big one. I've seen a lot of that mentioned. That seems to be trending right now. This is called a full yard tie, which is it's usually silk, and it's kind of like a repeated pattern or print on it. Gucci, obviously. Yes.
Full yard is a term that could be used for like the fabric that most ties are made out of. Yeah. Yeah. So the classic all over repeating patterns. Yeah. Out of silk.
Yeah. So I know Gucci, obviously. I think Gucci's always like one of those classic timeless ones. Lanvin is another one that's a French brand that Richard James, and this seems to be the silk knotted ties seem to be really in right now. So that's interesting. Alexander McQueen. There again, you see the skulls on there. If you can see that has the skull patterns on it. Yeah, so really cool. I love that. That's Tom Ford. Tom Ford's another classic menswear. Dunhill. So if you want to look at Paul Smith, Hackett. I haven't heard of some of these brands. Turnbull and Hugo Boss is a classic one that I've heard of. TM Louis, but you can see that this style of knit, the silk knot there seems to be really popular right now. So definitely, and then it goes on for Ted Baker. That's another one that's kind of a staple in men's clothing brands. I've sold Ted Baker and other. This brand, Ermenegildo Zenga, is very popular. I've sold some ties in that brand. So those are some of the, we can put that list there. And then I wanted to show a little bit. So I sold an Hermé tie. However, with an asterisk, it was as is because it did have some spots on it. And I could not get them out. I did everything I could. And there's only so much you can do with silk after it's been set in like that. But it was a beautiful tie. And so that's why I sold it for $50. I did disclose everything on there so you can see the stain. And unfortunately, one of the stains is like right in the middle there where it was pretty obvious. So, but someone still bought it for, but I wanted to tell you guys how, because this is one of the few things, high-end items that I can authenticate. So how you can tell that it is a real Hermé tie. So this obviously, this is one way you can tell, just by the, the symmetry of the stamp, this is always going to be there. And if you look at the pattern, you can tell that, it's perfectly geometric and all. And then the tag will always say 100% silk or soie, which is the French word for silk and dry clean. And you have the classic horse and carriage on there. But if you turn inside out an Hermé tie, it should be lined in. So there is always, well, I shouldn't say always, because I heard that there are some exceptions to the rules where there are actual real airmade ties that don't have this, but for the most part, if you turn it inside out and look, there should be a little loop there, a thread that's looped, like almost like a noose there. That is the hallmark of a genuine airmade tie. So if you have one, turn it inside out and definitely take a close-up picture of that and show it. So
super interesting. I would have thought that would be like a mistake or something, but it's actually like a mark of the real thing. So
it is a mark of the real, yes, the real Hermès. And then this is another article here that we have, Ferragamo is another, particularly popular brand that, I'm sure you've all heard of. But this also, Drake, again, is here. So that's Michael Kors is kind of, but here's another example of, this is a novelty tie. So you want to also know about, and we can put these in the chat. Here's some narrower ties and all. So, but you want to get, familiar with what is trending in, because men's ties, like, sometimes it's skinny, sometimes it's, wide, sometimes it's, different prints. And so you want to get an idea of what is trending for the current time. Just like other accessories, men's ties do have, they do cycle in and out, but they're also, some that are just kind of like classic staples, like the stripes and some of them just kind of always stay in style. So you also want to look at, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was like talking. Jason had a good question in the chat, which is, who the hell wears a necktie? Which is
I'm wearing one on my head.
Yeah, so they're definitely not as popular anymore. I mean, we're already on the way out in terms of like business, dress codes, and especially now with everyone working from home. But I've definitely sold ties to people who were going to wear it for their wedding, which is always really fun. So that's why I tend to gravitate towards like the funkier kind of vintage ties anyway, but those seem to be the ones that people are looking for, special occasion like a wedding, because they're a little bit, they're unique, they're representative of someone's personality. So there's always, that kind of fun aspect to it. And then I think there's also some people who are wearing them as like part of the sort of 90s punk aesthetic that's back in style right now.
Yeah,
so
bow ties are another thing.
Office.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So, but also, so there are other bow ties, I was saying, are another thing that's kind of come there. I have a couple examples of. So one thing though, people use them for other purposes. So you can sell them in lots, even damaged ties. Crafters use them. They use them. You had shown an example. You sent me.
I'll try to link it in the chat, because they were in the notes, because they're so cool. I found one girl who was selling on Depop like scrunchies, which are super in again, made out of vintage neckties, and they were so fun. Such a good idea. So there's people doing that. There's the like old school tie skirts that I think were really big in like the 90s and coming back. Yeah. I've seen people make
Jason found one, I think Jason found one when he was thrifting one time, and then I found a tie skirt at the same time. And but they're actually like made out of neckties. But crafters use them for even like for quilting, for repurposing things. There's so many reasons that crafters use them. So
especially if you find like a huge lot of them in a bag at the Goodwill outlet, and some of them are damaged, you can disclose some of that, just say that these are imperfect and lot them up, and someone will probably be willing to take on, the risk, because they know that they're not going to use the whole tie anyway. They'll cut it up and use parts of it. So, and I've done that with scarves too. So it goes for both. Yeah. Someone made a chair seat using ties. I want to see that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I would love to see that. But Yeah, they get really creative. And then scrunchies, hair scrunchies, you saw those repurposed from ties, and
Mhm.
people use them for kids crafts and everything else. I'm using one for a headband today. So, so
Belts.
there
I
are other
used to do
purposes.
that in high school. I would, and I remember I got the idea because they were actually selling them in J. Crew or something. And then I just did it myself, where I took a vintage tie I got from the thrift store and turned it into a belt that with like
Yeah, belts.
the D loops, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
So a lot of things, a lot of other reasons that people might not just wear the ties. And you can. I know I had a job. I used to work at the Olive Garden back in the day.
oh, really, I didn't know
Brought
that.
trays, brought trays. Yes, I was a horrible, horrible server. They ended up moving me in the front by the kitchen because they got tired of me dropping so many trays. So they gave me the least distance to walk. It was horrible. I was a horrible waitress. But that's beside the point. Um, but when I worked there, I had to wear ties. So I would, thrift them, and I had the Scooby-Doo tie and all the, I wish I still had my Olive Garden ties. Of course, I spilled like oil and stuff on them. So, but I used to, so there's also people in different occupations like that who wear them, who want the fun ties. And also, there's like college reunions and stuff. A lot of different universities and school specific ones. I found some of those. I sold, I think it was a Harvard tie, and her dad had just gotten a job at Harvard. And because I know, she messaged me. She's like, "Oh, I want this for a gift for my dad. He just got a job at Harvard," and she wanted me to ship it like directly to him. And I was like, no problem. But that was a while ago. But yeah, and I paid a couple dollars, and she paid like $30 because she was giving it as a gift. So
That's so cool. Yeah, I have this one listed currently. It's a Penn State tie, which oddly enough I found in Massachusetts, not in the Philly area. But
interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So I will pull up Becky. Becky sent me the chair seat picture. So I will pull that up. Yeah, I'll pull that up in a minute. Yeah, so I will pull that up at the end here. Here we go. So I have that there. But so so there's so many different reasons. I have a few. This is a Valentino tie. This I will be putting, I think I have it listed pretty high right now. But you can see, this is a very, very high end tie. And, a lot of, there are people that just like the high end ties, So
and there are still a handful of people who will wear them for work every day anyway. Like, lawyers still tend to dress in classic suits and stuff. So
around the holidays, I sell a lot of Christmas ties because people go to the parties, and this would be considered a novelty tie. It's nothing. It's not a good brand. It's not, but
with
oh yeah, I sent you some ties I had a whole lot of them.
Santa golfing.
Yep. And that'll see, and there's niches like that too. Like, different people. This is trains. This is locomotive trains. So somebody that's really interested into trains, and people give them as gifts for people that are interested in certain things. So this is actually passenger locomotive number 1401 Southern Railway. So it's very specific. So, so you look for things like that. Look for the novelty. And then this is a Ralph Lauren tie. It's a vintage one. It's actually Chaps Ralph Lauren from our episode on that. So this is another one that, Ralph Lauren collectors might be interested in. So a lot of different reasons for, people and a lot of things to look for. I'm going to go into some of the solds. I think, is there anything else that we wanted to say about ties?
I feel like I did want to say one more thing, and now I am blanking. Go for it.
Well, let me just show this. So Becky sent me the picture of the tie chair. This is interesting.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, so I'm trying to zoom up on it a little bit here if I can. I don't think I can. But yeah, you can get an idea there of, that's pretty neat. I like that. So, and I just want to.
You know what? I just remembered that was circling around social media back in Easter when everyone was stuck at home for the first few months and was like trying every new craft. Apparently Martha Stewart has a technique for like transferring silk onto eggs. So you can like dye Easter eggs using a silk like transfer method with old neckties and scarves. It looks really cool. So that was
I put myself away for a second. But see, there's so many different reasons that people will, other than just wearing them, in a traditional sense, that people will buy ties. So
pull it up.
Yeah. So let me just get this up. So anyway, so there's a lot of different reasons that people will be interested in ties that you wouldn't necessarily think of. But I want to show some of the
Here's
okay.
Oh,
there you go. You have it.
Yeah, I was
able so cool.
I actually, because I remembered I had a scarf you sent, and tie that you sent me that the image. Look how cool that is. A tie you sent me that was a Brooks Brothers tie that has a big coffee stain on the front.
Oh, does
and I don't think I could get it out without like the ink bleeding. So this was one tie I was going to set aside to try doing this, and I never did back in Easter, but I might do it for fun, just for practice. Maybe next Easter.
That is so fun. Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
That's awesome. So if you search Pinterest, I'm sure you can find a lot of these things.
It was like I searched silk tie egg or something, and it came up right away.
So I did want to answer one of the questions that we got in the thrifting board. So Rose asked, she said she's looking forward to this. So she said that she sold a lot of neckties over the years, and it seems like people aren't wearing them as much, plus COVID and work from home, which is very true. But people do still have Zoom meetings where they need, they're in a business meeting and they might have their boxer shorts or pajama pants on the bottom, but they might have a tie and a shirt on the top. So since they are neck up, at least, that's a good thing, or waist up, I should say. But so she wants to know ideas for marketing these in new ways, by theme, by color, if you're gonna group them in lots. And she said that she has a bunch of Christmas ties and cigar themed. They usually do well for holidays. It's the hundreds of very nice brand X silks that she's frustrated about. So what do you think, Lola?
I would maybe do, if they're really nice and they're impeccable condition and there's no flaws, I would maybe group them together in sort of a color story, which is not a term I use often because it irks me a little bit how influencers use it. But in this case, I think it matters. So it's, not maybe blues and greens together, but more kind of like if you were putting together a really nice curated wardrobe, that you're going to have a certain, groupings of colors that look nice together, that make it easy to grab a tie in the morning to match the color of your shoes, I guess, or whatever, or your suit, that, everything is coordinated. So maybe spend some time thinking about that, like how the same person might wear different ties that you have in your inventory, not so much like, are they perfectly coordinated to each other? Because you only wear one tie at a time. And then if you do have anything that's less than perfect and they're really not moving, I would consider going the like craft lot route, because there are so many ties available and they're not worn as much, people can be picky. So if you're selling anything that's less than perfect, unless it's like your tie, it may make sense to focus on offering them to people who are going to reimagine them somehow. And then maybe platform, like if you have some really cool, funky vintage ties and they're not moving on eBay, they might find their buyer on Etsy or
that's such a good point. Yep, that is a good point. Because like I had that Hermès tie. I think I had that Hermès tie on eBay too, and it just wasn't moving there. And it's somebody bought it on Poshmark. So some of those brand names too are great for Poshmark. People are looking for more of those brand names. And the Christmas ties, I would just start selling them now. But, before the holidays, get as many, but I wouldn't necessarily lot those up. Cigar themed, all those novelty ties. I think now is the time to list them because people do, have those holiday parties and they think about, getting dressed up more around the holidays. So.
And they make good gifts. Like the quintessential gift for the person you don't know that well, right? Or like your dad who doesn't need anything.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a novelty tie, it's a good small like white elephant kind of
Yeah.
gift, something
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely. I have heard of these ties where yeah, kind of like when there's like glasses that like that too, like where you fill the glass and I don't know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I
Mm-hmm.
think they're called like peekaboo ties or something. Yeah. So I'm sure they would sell Versace. Yeah, Versace sells. Nicole Miller. So I have a bunch. I have tried to sell. Some of them can be tough to sell. The Nicole Miller tie. They're really cool. A lot of the novelty ties are really, really nice. And she did a lot of them in the 90s, but
Mm-hmm.
they are tough. They have been tough for me to move at least. So maybe those are some that you would want a lot together. So yeah, so in my empty closet. That's
Well, good
okay.
listing.
That's good though. That's good that you're getting followers. That's a good thing. So we had a couple other comments there. Yeah, so the bins are, yeah, of course the bins are loaded. And then yeah, so definitely if you're getting the ties for a quarter, go through, find the gems, and then lot the other ones together. I think that would be my advice. Yeah.
And I also think it's one of those items where if it's been a while and it's not moving, I wouldn't sweat it too much just because they're tiny, they're easy to store. And I would just, keep in your head the difference between like the I don't know, like a tie like this it's obviously it's a college tie, it's going to appeal to a very specific person who may not be looking for it yet, versus something that's like a more classic pattern, like if this one wasn't stained, if this wasn't moving, it is just a classic Brooks Brothers. Like at some point I might think, okay, do I need to revamp the listing? Is it just stale? Is it just not going to move? Do I lot it up with something else? So
yeah, so you might want to just revisit them. So I'm just going to go through some of the solds that I found. This is a ridiculous one. Now this is a Brioni tie that was actually 24 karat gold and silk. So that's a little ridiculous.
What? Wait, what part of it was 24 karat?
I don't know, but it says
the thread, maybe?
I guess there's metallic.
Or is it the fabric itself is like gilded?
I guess so. It's interesting. I don't know, but there you go. It says 24 karat there on the tag. So that one went for $9.99, which is a little unbelievable and crazy, but I guess, things happen like that.
That's a great way.
Yeah.
Can you go back to that photo of the measurements? That's a great way to show the width of the tie. With
that is
the skinny and the wide end and how wide it is.
Yeah, that is interesting. You're going to do an extra. Their photos are pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is hard to photograph ties. I will either roll them or show just like the tip of them, like just the wide part, and then I'll show the length in another picture. And but rolling them is another good thing to do in photos. So here is one that's a Ralph Lauren purple label. This one sold for $2.99. So there you go. So you can see made by hand. That's a little different than the standard Ralph Lauren. And I did do a whole webinar and I did a webinar in the Secret Beach, and we did a whole show here on Ralph Lauren. So, there's definitely some money to be made in some of the Ralph Lauren ties. So here's an example. Now this was 700 ties, but they were all novelty. So if you have that many and they're novelty ties, they sold them for $800. So that was, if you break it down, that's, what, $1 or something a tie. So, but seriously, get them all together and sell them as a big lot, So, and here's one. This was another polo collector's one that sold for $355. So yeah, that's another. So there are some Ralph Laurens out there that you want to look for sure. And Brioni, another Brioni. This one only sold for $148.50, not $9.99. But that is another brand that you want to look for. And there's an Armani Gildo Zenga that sold for $159. That's a brand that I usually will pick up, with some exceptions, but I've sold those well. And then new with tags, here is a Tom Ford silk knit. Like this has that silk knot that we were talking about. This style seems to be very popular right now. So and that sold for $160. Chanel. So here, Charvet. This is a Charvet bow tie. So I want to give a couple examples of bow ties. So there are bow ties that will sell, and this one sold for $131.21. Didn't Chris wear a bow tie for a wedding or something that you guys
has worn
went to?
bow ties a few times. Yeah, they wore one for a wedding that they officiated. When was the last time it happened? They've done a few now. It was last year. Oh, we had matching. They had a bow tie, and then I was wearing my flower crown for a wedding that we went to last year, just about a year ago. Not
So
one
that's
that was last time. Yeah.
That's another great audience though too. Is we had a whole episode about a gender neutral and transgender fashion, friendly fashion, and that is a whole nother audience that that would wear ties too. So you have to think about that too. And then Robert Talbot, I sold one Robert Talbot tie. This was a couple years ago though, but I sold it for like $60 or something, and it was So here's a lot. This is a brand that you should look for, but here's a lot of 10 of them that went for $130, $150. So that's another example of a lot of ties and none of them are like, super, some super exciting print here. But if you have them, definitely lot of together. So Hermé, this is an Hermé bow tie. I love the print on that. That is so cool. Yeah, so that went for $264.70. And this is okay. So this is one of my sales. This only went for $19.99. It was Land's End. Cool print. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing. And I paid, you know what? I think actually a friend gave me a lot of ties that she was like, I don't feel like dealing with them. Maybe you can list them. And I sent some to Lola to list. And
I have, a bunch of them with me right now.
So I sold a bunch of them already. And this was from that. So I essentially paid nothing. And I think she got them for like, nothing. So $19.99 plus shipping, that's a good deal when you're paying like nothing or next to nothing for a tie. So, and they're so easy to ship, so easy to store. This is one that it only went for $9.99, but this is an example of a vintage skinny necktie. So, this was one that went for $9.99, and it was like polyester 70s. You can see that it's. But I can guarantee that it was some hipster guy that wanted that, And whoops. Okay, that's it. Sorry.
Good example.
So I think that, that hopefully, was there anything else that we wanted to add, Lola, about ties?
I think we've hit it all.
Yeah.
Becky had a great example of reusing ties, incorporating it into an updo. I would love to see a photo of that. That sounds really cool.
Ooh, that's a cool idea. I like that.
Imagine like wrapping it around.
Interesting.
Something like that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty. I like that idea. So we are going to do a market report today. We're not going to do news today. We don't have a news story for you, but probably have one next week.
And
so I have some. Oh, you do?
No, I said if anyone in the chat has one to share, send it to us.
Oh, I thought you said I.
No. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. How do I ship ties? Oh, that's a question that I should answer. So with ties, I will wrap them like this. What I do is I will fold them once over like this, and then kind of. Can you put me back on the big screen for a second? Okay. So I will usually just kind of roll them like that nicely so that they're not, they're not wrinkling or anything. And then I'll put them in a small Ziploc bag, suck the air out, and then I'll just stick them in a small poly mailer. If it's a really expensive or nice tie, sometimes I will ship it like in a box, or I'm talking if I sell like a couple $100 tie, I'm not gonna, or I'll take the time to tissue wrap it, but mostly just put them in a Ziploc bag and stick it in a poly mailer and send it. That's all I do. So, and they're so easy to store. I actually store them in the Ziploc bags too. I think I sent you a bunch that were in the Ziploc bags.
Yeah.
Them that way, and then all you have to do is you can just ship them that way too. They're already packaged. So
yeah. And then I think I forgot to add my favorite tip, which is for scarves, especially, I will use them to wrap, to mail other items. So something like this, where this is a scarf I got from the bins. it has no label. It's not, anything.
Yeah, definitely. But
particular, you can use it, just, put your item in the center and then tie it at the corners, kind of in a little package. And it makes a nice like free gift, and also really nice presentation. And then I also will take damaged silk scarves. So this one had a ton of like bleeding on the, like someone had tried to hand wash it and the dye had bled.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I cut it into strips and just tied them together. And I've actually used this to knit, but you can also use this to, tie your, like if you have an item wrapped in tissue paper, and then use this as
that's a good point. Yeah.
Really and pretty and unique.
You can probably do them crafters lots of scarves too, or lots of scarves, This is an example too. I just wanted to show this one really quick. So this is a really beautiful scarf. It's still pretty, but somebody washed it, like not like they didn't dry clean it, they washed it. And you can tell because it's faded and it's got that silk kind of gets that, it loses some of its luster, it loses some of it kind of gets like a more of a matte look to it when it's been washed. And so this isn't something that I would resell. I will keep it, but it's hand rolled. It was a gorgeous scarf, but somebody somewhere along the way washed it. So you do have to watch for that too.
Yeah, I find that's a fairly common
so because they should be only dry cleaned. That is something that. But okay, so going back to our market report, so I paid $5 for this, and this was when I found it on Facebook Marketplace. And I didn't know that there was an eBay party. I'm missing out on the party.
There's an eBay like anniversary party, I think.
Am I not invited? I missed the memo on that. Okay.
Our email. At least I got email. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
we'll wrap up in just a few minutes.
We'll wrap it up. Yeah, we're gonna wrap up. So I paid $5 for this and sold it for $159.99 plus shipping to Germany. I saw this on my local Facebook Marketplace. I messaged her. I said, "Is it still available?" She said, "Yes." I said, "I'll be right over with my $5." She left it on the porch. I stuck the $5 under her mat and listed it in the car on my way home. And within like 24 hours, sold it for $159.99 plus shipping to Germany. So that was amazing. This one, I got a lot of old books on Shop Goodwill. So I paid about $5 for it and I sold it for $29.99 plus shipping. And it was pretty beat, but religious books can sell well. So, and especially if they are old, like this was 1905. These I got in a blue box of 5 pairs of shoes for $39.99 with shipping, that is. And so I paid about $8, sold them for $79.99 plus shipping. And then my kids have been doing puzzles like crazy. They don't want to do them again. So essentially I pay $0 because they were my kids' puzzles, and I've been lotting them up after they're done because they're only 300 pieces. And I've been selling them for about $35 a lot. This was one that went for $35 a lot. And this was kind of an unexpected one. I paid $1 for this and I sold it for $19.99 plus shipping. So You never know. Yeah. So, and we have a question for you this week. We want to know what great tie or scarf score that you have to share with us. Let us know in the YouTube comments.
And if you have a great craft or upcycle too, because there were a couple amazing examples just in the chat. So if anyone's watching this later and has an example to share, please let us know and make a comment and then send us a photo. Maybe we can share it as a follow-up in our next episode.
Yep. That's a good tip too. That
from Rosemary,
Yeah. So, and where you can find us, we're all over the place. And so definitely look for us all over the place. And we are nalothrifts@gmail.com. If you have an idea for an upcoming video, we want to be a future guest, comments, questions, let us know.
Comment on this video if you have any additional tips or thoughts to share. And if you have any questions for us for next week when our special guest, Jason T. Smith, will be on with us to talk vinyl.
Yes. So just a reminder, next week, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, we will have a very special guest. Some guy named Jason will be on. And he's going to be talking all about vinyl. So it will be exciting to hear what he has to say. So definitely tune in next week and have a great week, everyone. Thanks for putting up with our technical issues at the beginning.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yes. Have a great week, and I'm going to go see about this eBay party that I may or may not be invited to. Okay.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.